2009 was to realize that we were not having the same prosperous state that we had back in 2003 when we increased that per capita expenditure per Nevada. And they have failed to realize that they needed to do what we all did in our homes and what we all did in our businesses, which was control expenses and try to ride this wave so that we can create again a prosperous Nevada, which will have an increased revenues, which can then serve not only education, but our seniors in Nevada, and continue to serve the veterans as you repeatedly advocate for. I think that the main problem here is that we have not identified that Nevada is an international economy. And we are affected by the things that affect the world. And we always see Nevada having the end tail of the results. We saw recession later, and we will see the economy stimulated later too. And I'm not sure that of the people that are in the assembly, because of the lack of experience in businesses and their short sight, they have not been able to identify that and set the strategy for a long-term prosperous Nevada.
Note the panel members, 3 minutes.
Do you support and how do you feel about how the healthcare reform bill will affect the independent contractors and small to medium-sized businesses with 50 or more employees?
Thank you. Tim Williams. It's going to impact the small business in extreme ways. It's going to pretty much put the small business, as we know it, out of business. Not only do you got to look at what it's going to do with the small business and with the business community as a whole, you've got to look at what it's going to do to the individuals that are the patients of this. I've got a brother who's had 2 kidney transplants. He's been on dialysis for years. He's had a lot of medical problems. This is the worst thing that could ever happen to him. My mom and dad, especially my mom, spent her whole life, all the time, competing, trying to get the doctors and the funding for him. And this is already a government entity that oversees his funding. And now what we've done is take that and we made it applicable to everybody across the table. If you see what it's going to do to the individuals that are supposed to be using the healthcare, it's going to destroy our medical as we know it now. He's had several experimental surgeries done to him. He's the youngest baby to ever be operated on inside the womb, and he was also the smallest child to ever have peritoneal dialysis. They didn't used to do dialysis other than take your blood out, clean it, put it back into you, and they couldn't do that on babies because it would kill them. That kind of stuff will go away because the government will not pay for a procedure unless they know it works, because they could be held liable for it. So you got to look at not only what's it going to do to our business, but what it's going to do to the people in the state of Nevada. Thank you.
TBLS, the question was, what would the healthcare reform do to small and large businesses in Nevada? To small businesses, depending on the number of employees, for instance, less than 50 employees, 30 employees, they will pay a surtax of 4% if they don't provide healthcare benefits to their employees. Some businesses get by 4% income earnings. If they have to take 4% out of the top to pay for their employees, they will go out of business. Medium-sized businesses will be taxed 6%, and large businesses will be taxed 8% if they don't provide healthcare benefits to their employees. Let's talk about large businesses, because that will affect us by the numbers. The larger employers in Nevada are the gaming industry, the school district, and a lot of the self-funded programs, which, by the way, are not mandated by rules or laws by the state, but by federal law, because they're also funded. And what these employees spend per capita per year, it's approximately 12 to 14% of their revenues to provide healthcare benefits to their employees. They're going to take a look at this and they're going to say, wait a minute, I spend out of my pocket to provide what is called a Cadillac benefit to my employees up to 14% of my income. Why don't I just send everybody else all my employees to the government-ran health care and only pay 8% penalty? And that is what is going to happen. Some of the larger employees hire and employ the majority of the employee base in Nevada. So we will see the majority of Nevada being serviced when the years come down the line by the government health care program. That will entail that the benefits will have to be limited, because as you add more people to the program, you will have to limit the services. But let's talk about what Nevada will be faced and what we will be facing in the legislature. It was estimated that the Medicaid expansion for the state of Nevada in the next 2 to 4 years was going to be approximately 60% because of the aging population. In 2011, the baby boomers will start retiring by 10,000 a day, and because of the economy, they will be poor. They will be poorer. So they will qualify for those benefits by 60% expansion of our Medicaid program in the state of Nevada. That we control at the legislature. That means that we will have an additional $613 million to care for. With this new healthcare reform, federal healthcare reform, it will be 82% expansion because they expanded the criteria to up to $1 billion. That's a problem that we are faced with in Nevada. So this healthcare reform is a challenge. It's going to be critical, and it's going to be a crisis in Nevada.
Okay, thank you. We are at time for District 5. Thank you for coming out.